Welcome back, Defenders. Today's video, we're going to start by talking about the insane losses the Russians have been taking so far this month. If you don't know who this man is, his name is Perpetua. And he's the guy, plus his team, who have been visually confirming all losses on the battlefield for both the Russians and the Ukrainians. How this works is every day he puts out a public Excel spreadsheet showing the type of system, whether it was destroyed or damaged, Russian or Ukrainian, maybe how was it destroyed, and then he provides a source so you can see for yourself. Most of these are links to Telegram because that's usually where pictures and videos appear first. He does his best to get accurate information and then catalog all losses. This does not sound like a fun job to do, but I'm thankful that somebody is doing it. And here are the visually confirmed losses for the Russians over the last 4 days. Yes, Ukraine down here in the blue is still taking losses, but the Russians are easily taking losses 3-1, 4-1, or 5-1. It's so bad. Last week was the deadliest week of the war for Russian forces. Based on the headlines, you might not have noticed that. But this number, eliminated personnel, has been consistently above 1,000 every day so far this month. Now you might say Ukraine's numbers are inflated, they're over-reporting, and that might be true. This is the total number of killed, captured, and wounded. But even if Ukraine has been over-reporting consistently, even with their own over-reported numbers, this was still the deadliest week of the war for the Russian forces. Why is this? And it's because Russia's on the attack everywhere. They are pushing their forces on the front lines to the max everywhere. They're attacking Ukrainian forces in Kursk. They're not really attacking so much in Kharkiv anymore, but they are trying to hold their positions in the city of Vovchansk. They're attacking in the Kupiansk direction, trying to get to the Oskil River. They're attacking in the Bakhmut direction towards Chasiv Yar. They're attacking towards the city of Toretsk. They're attacking towards Pokrovsk. They're attacking in the Vuhledar direction as well. I've been explaining why they're attacking so furiously right now, and it all has to do with several elections. This week there will be elections in Georgia. Yesterday or 2 days ago there were elections in Moldova, and in 2 weeks there's elections coming up here in the United States. Russia is trying to push this narrative that victory for Russia is inevitable and that the West should capitulate. Ukraine should surrender. Just negotiate with the Russians and give them everything they want. But Russia can't keep up this pace forever. One, their troops are exhausted and they have to resupply, rotate. But also we've officially hit mud season. This is to Ukraine's advantage. Ukraine needs a pause in all these attacks. But it's not going to be easy for the Russians to keep attacking when all the roads and fields look like this.
I believe in you, you got this.
Now, the rainy season and the mud causes problems for both sides. But if you want to go on the attack through open fields, it just ain't going to happen when the mud is this bad. And Ukraine is performing heroically on the defensive almost everywhere. I don't include many of these videos because I can't show them. YouTube doesn't allow me to show violence. But I will link some clips down below if you want to see Ukraine's heroic defense. Ukraine's 46th Brigade releases video of repelled Russian attack near Kurakov. If you've not seen a Ukrainian Javelin destroy a Russian tank in a while, I'll link this video down below. This was a good one. Here is a battle happening in Kursk between an American Abrams tank and a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle versus Russians on the ground. There are American heavy armored vehicles inside of Russia right now fighting Russian forces. This is just crazy to see and think about. So who doesn't appreciate this increased ops tempo of continuous attacks in numerous directions? And it's Russian frontline forces. They're pretty fed up. I've seen a humongous increase in the amount of videos put out by Russian soldiers complaining about frontline conditions. So here's a group of Russian soldiers who film this message. And when they film these messages, they're basically risking their freedom, they're risking their lives. But they're convinced the conditions they're under are so bad, they're going to die anyways. So why not film a video for posterity? Here is what this group of Russians has to say. Let me introduce myself. My call sign is Azid. We're the servicemen of the Assault Company, 19th Tank Regiment, 25th Army. Currently, we are taking circular defense. On the other side are fellows who shell us day and night. And on the other side are fellows who want to zero us out. Obviously, the word isn't fellows, but that's what I'm going to say for the video, guys. Simply because we refuse to carry out their dumb, drunk orders. So these Russian soldiers are accusing their leadership of being drunk while giving them commands. Our battalion commander, call sign Atlas, a few days ago, started nullifying our fighters, literally lynching us, killing our people in our group, together with his mates, and they kill the lads for refusing to go forward. Because we lose, they lose 90% of their people with every assault. There are few of us left, and we are under threat of our own people. So when these guys are ordered to advance and then they refuse orders, artillery starts firing on them. Their commanders kill their own soldiers when they refuse to go on meat assaults. We are taking circular defense now. We're not going to retreat, despite the upsetting moments. Our lads haven't had leave for over a year. Haven't seen their wives, their mothers. There's no supply. All that we wear now, we bought with our own money, aside from perhaps these pixel uniforms given at the training grounds. These masks and helmets are so effing desperate right now that they don't even wear armored vests anymore. Our helmets or guns, because they don't give a F anymore. It goes on, I'll link the thing down below, but yeah, this is consistent across the front lines that Russian commanders, direct orders from the Kremlin, keep attacking. Doesn't matter if they're successful, keep attacking, keep attacking, keep attacking. No, we're not going to give you more ammunition. No, we're not going to give you more equipment. No, we're not going to give you proper body armor and assault rifles and helmets and all the good stuff you need. Just keep dying. So these guys, I don't understand why they don't surrender, why they don't try to reach the Ukrainian forces and lay down their arms. It's the only way they'll live. Because if they stay in the war zone, eventually, with the barrel of a gun to their backs, they're going to be forced to attack, and they're not going to survive. But it's North Korea to the rescue. That's the story of the week. Russia detains 18 North Korean soldiers who left their positions in the Kursk Oblast. So, North Koreans have been seen in Donetsk. North Koreans have been seen in Mariupol. North Koreans have been seen in Kursk in the Far East. They're currently going through a training process at various training grounds. But allegedly last week, let me show you how many of these guys showed up. Citing a military intelligence source, around 40 North Korean soldiers had arrived in Russia to exchange skills with their Russian counterparts. So only 40 arrived at this position in Kursk, and 18 of them chose to desert within the first week. 50% of them ran off into the woods within a week of arriving in Kursk. They were caught and brought back, and I imagine they're being punished right now, but no, I don't think the quality of these soldiers is going to be pretty good. And we're getting new videos every day. Here's another video I want to share with you of North Korean soldiers being spotted. This is in Russia's Primorsky Krai region. And here's what this observer has to say about them.
Северной Корее отырып союзны тіркелділер. Красавчики.
So this Russian is saying these North Koreans look nice. Maybe the war will end now. So Kim Jong-un is sending 10,000 of these guys, and I've already made the arguments it's a death sentence. They're never going to be allowed to come back to North Korea. But 10,000 soldiers is what Russia lost just last week. By the North Koreans sending 10,000 troops, they've extended Putin's manning problem by only a week. North Korean ballistic missile expert spotted in Donetsk. The leading missile developer was part of Kim Jong-un's team during the September 2023 summit with Russia. His presence in Ukraine is likely to analyze the performance of Pyongyang's KN-23 missiles. So there will be some people from the Kim regime going to participate in the war who will come back to give reports. These are trusted people, trusted families within Kim's inner circle. This is a ballistic missile expert, and he is in Russia to advise the Russians and to make observations. The North Koreans can't really test any of their military equipment on the Japanese or the South Koreans. That would lead to a direct war. So I do think Putin did convince Kim Jong-un this was a good idea. Send us your weapons. Send us your experts. You can test anything you want on civilians inside of Ukraine. That's a pretty sweet deal for two fascist dictators. And yeah, this guy is going to return to give a report about the performance of North Korea's missiles. South Korea's president on North Korean troops to Russia: "We will not sit idly by." Russia's ambassador to Seoul got called in for a talking to with suggestions South Korea would review its long-standing ban on exporting lethal aid to a country at war. We've got various headlines similar to this effect. South Korea may send military specialists to Ukraine to monitor North Korean troops. And I want to explain to you guys the cultural dynamic between North Korea and South Korea. Technically, yes, they're still at a state of war. There was only an armistice and not a peace treaty signed in 1953. But the South Koreans don't really hate the North Koreans. They hate the Kim family and the Kim regime. But this is a tragic situation in which half their land, half their people are being held hostage by the Kim family. So it's not easy for South Koreans to get excited about going to war and killing the ignorant, impoverished 20-some million people of North Korea. It's not like, India and Pakistan or Israel and whoever. These are the same people, the same history, the same culture, the same language. They don't want to fight. Maybe the Kim family does, but not the actual people. So it's very difficult to get South Koreans excited about the idea of going to Ukraine to kill their cousins, to kill their blood relatives. But South Korea has to do something to show this is not acceptable behavior from the Kim family. So what South Korea has to do is they actually have to pass a law first in their equivalent of Congress or Parliament. That's going to take some debates. That's going to take some time before they can start exporting lethal aid to a country at war. But South Korea can always just send whatever they want to the United States. This then frees up, for example, artillery shells in our inventory that we can then immediately send to Ukraine. This is all being worked on behind the scenes. So let's get the reaction of Russians on Kremlin state TV. What are they saying about their new North Korean allies arriving to save the day? Of course, the big powerful plus is in purely military aspect, because if this decision is made, it'll be pretty refined. Not on the territory that the West considers Ukrainian land occupied by us, but on the classical territory of the Russian Federation. Let's say they'll be stationed along the border to free up our soldiers. So this Russian commentator is saying the best use for these Korean soldiers is to place them on the border with Belgorod, Kursk, and Bryansk. Don't actually send them to the occupied territories to fight. Mobilization is taking place in Ukraine now, and in principle, if at some point there will be more of them again, and we will have a choice to carry out mobilization that will simply finish off our economy, which is insanely profitable right now. So they're making the argument the reason why Russia's not done another round of mobilization is because their economy can't handle it. The labor market is too tight and Russia can't find workers, so they don't think it's feasible to mobilize another 300,000 men to send them to Ukraine. The commentator says, what do you mean by finish off? We have such growth right now. It's better to use. It turns out to be some kind of delayed usage. Nevertheless, it is better to use others' mercenary troops because, of course, we will pay for them. They will be classic mercenaries. So this is the Russians on Kremlin state TV just calling the North Koreans mercenaries. They're not there for ideological reasons. They're not there for love of Russia or hatred of Ukraine. Kim is just doing this for money. He sold 10,000 of his slaves to Putin to be used however the Russians want to use them. For money. That doesn't sound like the best soldier to have on the battlefield. What are the pluses and the minuses? We need our men inside the country. Does entrusting our border to a foreign army not bother you? We may find ourselves in a position where we don't have a choice. Do you understand? If there was a choice to place our inexperienced 18-year-old conscripts or North Koreans there, which is better? The host then says you are being dramatic. What if Ukrainians will come again, suddenly like they did in the Kursk region? Well, it will be easier for you, our guys, or North Korean special forces. If Russia's own people in Kursk wouldn't even stand in fights. Sure, they were 18, 19, 20-year-old conscripts, but they weren't even willing to fight. Why would the North Koreans put up more of a resistance than the Chechens and the conscripts when Ukraine attacked Kursk? So it's interesting how they view the North Koreans, but no, I don't think North Korea is going to save Putin's war effort. Polish Prime Minister Tusk, U.S. election crucial for Zelensky's victory plan. Everything is just on hold. We got 2 weeks to go. Today is Tuesday, and the election here in the United States is in exactly 2 weeks. And it's close, according to the polling data. There is no clear favorite. There is a serious chance Donald Trump could be reelected as president. And this is partly why the Russians are pushing so hard right now. They believe that any territory they take, any people they steal, they'll be allowed to keep it once Donald Trump is elected president. Donald Trump will cut off all military aid to Ukraine and tell the Russians they have to stop. And Russia's okay taking a break to engage in negotiations or peace talks or whatever when they have every intention of starting this war again once they once they think they have the industry, equipment, and manpower to finish off Ukraine in 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years from now. So I know a lot of people around the world watching my videos are nervous about this election, and all the early signs are good news. Something like 14 or 15 million Americans have already voted, and in the critical battleground states, Pennsylvania being one of them, we don't know who voted for who, but we do know the party affiliation of the ballots returned. And currently in the state of Pennsylvania, the Democrats have a 348,000 ballot returned advantage. It's pretty good. In the state of Georgia, also crucial, early turnout has been insane, something we've never seen in the state of Georgia. 1.7 million people have already voted early in Georgia, or about 24% of all active or registered voters. 1 in 4 people in Georgia have already voted, and the election isn't for 2 more weeks. Same is true more or less in the state of North Carolina. This isn't a must-win, but if Kamala Harris does win it, this is pretty important. And as far as ballots returned, more Democrats than Republicans have returned their ballots. But there's a huge no-party affiliate vote coming in at 31%. So in 2 weeks, I might do a live stream, but it comes down to voter turnouts. For Donald Trump to win, we need low voter turnout, low voter participation. Donald Trump was able to win in 2016, even though he lost the popular vote, because voter turnout was only 60% of eligible voters. 4 years later, in 2020, voter turnout increased by 6% to 66%, and that was enough for Joe Biden to crush Donald Trump. 7 million votes and over 70 electoral votes. The 2020 election wasn't even close. This election potentially will be closer, but I'm confident based on all the early votes, early data we have, Kamala Harris is going to win in 2 weeks. Stay tuned. Let's get to the bad news for Russia. Senior Russian pilot found dead with fatal head injuries near Bryansk. The body of a Russian aviation squadron chief who was linked to war crimes in Ukraine, including strikes on Dnipro that killed dozens, was mysteriously found dead. I'm guessing this was some kind of internal dispute between 2 drunk guys. An Ilyushin 76 cargo plane with a Russian crew shot down in Sudan's North Darfur. This is a Russian military cargo plane that was probably sending military equipment to Sudanese rebels. Somebody shot down the plane and the Russian crew was lost. In the wreckage, the Sudanese on site recovered some passports and identification information. There's also videos of the plane being shot down and the wreckage on the ground. I'll link this down below if you want to see it for yourself. Ukraine says it struck an airfield and the largest explosives factory in Russia. This is located about 760 kilometers from Ukrainian territory. They got it with drones. There's pictures and videos online. And this is the ammunition. It's kind of a factory and then a storage site. I think this is what the factory looks like. There's also an airfield nearby that was also struck. We don't have the satellite images showing if there was any damage to planes, but potentially. These attacks are never going to stop. Key Russian military factory of microelectronics halts work after a Ukrainian drone attack. This is in the Bryansk region. Ukraine reportedly strikes 4 alcohol distilleries in a Russian drone attack. Is this a top priority? Maybe I'm missing something, but yeah, Russians like their vodka. Vodka is one of Russia's most important exports, and Ukraine is now going after their distilleries. This might actually concern Russians. Ukraine war veterans protest against road construction project in western Siberia. I don't know why they're upset with this road project, but This is important. These are veterans of the Ukraine war, Russians, choosing to participate because they're upset about something related to their local politics. And about 50 protesters participated, including 5 servicemen dressed in military uniforms. It would be a shame if these kinds of protests increased. Wouldn't it, Putin? Siberian coal miners launch hunger strike over unpaid wages. These are impoverished Russians working in a coal mine, and I guess they haven't been paid in something like 4 months. And wouldn't you just quit your job and move somewhere else rather than go on a hunger strike? But something tells me their mobility and freedom is being restricted. Russia to host landmark BRICS summits in ongoing bid to reshape the world. This is happening today. I think today is like the opening ceremony of the BRICS summit. Last year, Putin wasn't able to attend. I think it was in South Africa because Putin's an internationally wanted war criminal who can't visit more than half the world now. So they decided to have the BRICS summit this year in Moscow. And Brazil is not attending because their president fell in the bathtub. I guess that's what I read online, but I think there's a lot of world leaders just looking for any excuse not to show up. This is good news. Sandu claims 300,000 votes were bought in fraud of unprecedented scale during the first round of Moldova's presidential election. So Moldova is not a very big country. It's only about 3 million people. We kind of just forget about it, but it's right here, and Russia is occupying part of their territory. And they just had free and fair elections 2 days ago, and there were 2 important votes. One was for president. The current president is pro-EU, pro-Western, and was facing a Russian opposition candidate. And the other was a constitutional question whether or not Moldova wants to join the EU. So Russia wanted their presidential candidate to win, and they wanted Moldovans not to vote to join the European Union. But the vote turned out positive. In the first round of voting, Maya Sandu got 42%. The Russian guy got 25%. They have to have a runoff election because nobody got 50%. But as far as the constitutional referendum question, even with the Russians potentially buying 300,000 votes in a country of only 3 million people, it still did not go Russia's way. 50.46% voted to amend the constitution to allow for the EU accession process, and Moldova's going forward. Moldova wants to move on from their Soviet past. Other good news, U.S. announces $400 million in defense aid. Former Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin made an appearance in Ukraine and presented this security assistance package to President Zelensky. Included is the usual good stuff that Ukraine needs to stay in the fight. On top of that, the United States has pledged $800 million for Ukrainian drone production with the new package. So this is different. This isn't, we're going to give you stuff worth this money. We're going to give you the money. Ukraine has been saying for the last couple of weeks that they've managed to increase the production of their own domestically produced drones, jet drones, but they lack the funding. So here you go, Ukraine. Here's $800 million. These Palyanitsa jet drones, I think on the battlefield have proven themselves. They're very effective. Russia is not good at shooting them down. But each one of these probably costs close to $1 million. 800 million means potentially 800 of these drones. Now, with production, the cost per unit over time should go down, so hopefully Ukraine can find ways to cut corners and reduce price and make as many of these as possible with the money they're being provided. It's going to happen. France converts 300 million of frozen Russian assets into Caesar howitzers for Ukraine. Paris will finance 12 Caesar howitzers along with critical military hardware. Thank you so much to the people of France. Real quick, I want to mention that Wired magazine wrote an article about us, guys. The shit-posting cartoon dogs sending trucks, drones, and weapons to Ukraine's front lines. The North Atlantic Fellow Organization, which started it as a way to fight Kremlin propaganda, has raised millions of dollars to send vital equipment directly to soldiers fighting Russia. And here on this truck, right there, it says Jake019. This is one of our trucks, guys. In Wired magazine. They didn't mention my name, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing what the guys of the 69th Sniffing Brigade have accomplished, and just what individuals on their own can do to support Ukraine. Final video I have for you today is a Ukrainian defender cooking borscht with the help of his bionic arm during an occupational therapy session. I want to share this video with you.
Я Данилець Сергій. Сьогодні було заняття ерготерапії. Готували борщ. Можете побачити. Наваристий, нажористий. Дуже смачний.
І дуже цікаво, що він пригощає свого протезиста борщом.
Дуже смачно.
Так.
Дякую тобі.
На здоров'я.
І бачите, він вже має біонічну руку. І він готував цією рукою, так?
Так, так.
Вона допомагає тобі.
Так, допоміж ним перетримати терку, доску.
З нігтем.
Без проблем. Опускаємо, піднімаємо. Закриття, відкриття.
Добре. Смачно.
Хорошо.
Смачно. Ну насипай мені теж
Не
таке.
питання вічно. Як скажеш. Якщо треба.
Це не просто кухня, це кабінет ерготерапії, де хлопці кожен день готують. І ми потім разом всі обідаємо.
Looks like some tasty borscht. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.